Is that even getting the jail thing down there? Make like a happy face?
What's that? Don't do that. That looks stupid.
You're covering your face.
Oh, I didn't see.
Okay.
Do you think that was good?
So behind us is the jail that we were brought to in the middle of the night when we were picked up and arrested the night before Jay's birthday, and both brought in with $1 million bail.
Hi everybody, welcome back to This Is Us Tuesday. Before we get restarted on our story, I want to clarify something that we said in error on our last video. Getting ready for this video, we pulled our paperwork, and turns out that our bail that was set for each of us was not $1 million. Combined, it was over $1 million. The bail was set for $750,000 for me and $500,000 for Stephanie, which is still an insane amount of bail for, you know, somebody that didn't kill a bunch of people. And so I just want to clarify that. And we're going to pick up this story July 20th, about 3:30 in the morning, 2006, at our home. And we were basically getting cuffed and stuffed in the back of 2 police cars and on our way to the local county jail. You know, I'll let you go ahead and tell what your experience was when they brought you in, and then I'll share mine.
I continued having to go pee, and when I got there, I wasn't gonna go there, and they put me in a room at first, and it had windows and a telephone, and it looked like a nicer room, like almost like a waiting room. And I wasn't gonna sit down because I don't like to sit on stuff because everything's like gross to me. And they were trying to be nice. They had, after I had been in there for a while, they had brought me like a tray of like potato chips and some type of sandwich, and I wasn't gonna eat it, but I was throwing a fit. I was being bad and like kind of acting up. I probably shouldn't have, but that's just how I was acting because I was angry and I was tired. And I like was calling on the phone, trying to call like their front desk person to see if they'd get me out of there or if I could make a phone call out. And I was throwing the chips on the ground, stomping on the floor, crushing them because I was so mad. And then after I guess they got sick of me, they had an officer come in and he grabbed my arm real tight and he like threw me in a different cell that had like a toilet and then like a long hard thing that you could like lay on, I guess. But it was disgusting. It was worse, but I wasn't gonna, because the first room didn't even have a toilet in it, so it wasn't really like a cell.
So meanwhile, while she was being provided with some luxury hotel accommodations at first.
I wouldn't call it that.
I was brought into the back and put into what I guess was a holding cell because all that was in there was just literally a toilet, concrete floor, and then cement walls. And it was pretty cold. I wasn't really dressed to be, you know, spending the night in a cell. And so I just basically just sat on the floor, and we were in there for a good total of probably more than 8 hours. You know, we neither one had a get out of jail free card. And while we were in there, they were trying to get a hold of the state investigator that wanted to come down and interview me. And of course, when he got there, I had to tell him that I had an attorney and that I wasn't going to be answering his questions. And so, you know, as we sat in there, you know, there was storms brewing outside. I think there was even tornado warnings. And my mom had contacted Stephanie's mom and convinced her that they needed to help us get out. Obviously, because we had kids and needed, you know, to take care of them. And so she convinced her to help out. And, you know, I think my mom got some type of a, you know, quick loan and got money from the bank. And, you know, we had some access to some money that she took. And then she also, you know, promised Stephanie's mom that anything that they put up, that she would pay her back. They ran around and they also contacted our attorneys, and they were able to get our bail amounts reduced to, or from $750,000 on me, $500 on her, down to $500,000 on me and $250 on her. So they had to go out and get, you know, basically $75,000, get cashier's checks, and run them to the county that we were charged in to post the bond, and so that we could get out. And that was about 45 minutes to maybe an hour away from where we were being held and where we lived. They finally came and notified us that we had made bond, and that we were able to leave. And so now it was time, after being up all night and being arrested and being in jail for the first time, to go celebrate Jay's birthday.
Woohoo! No, that was rough because I think it was like 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, and the whole day was shot, and we had to get showers and everything. And so like his birthday was kind of ruined, but we tried to make it as good as we could and tried not to like let the kids know how upset we were.
And of course, the whole time, our mind is in completely other place. Like, oh my gosh, this is, too real. This is horrible. What's going to happen next? Because we thought at least that, it was going to go in a different way based on what our attorneys had both told us. After we got through Jay's birthday and his celebration, we had to really, settle down and figure out how we were going to proceed and what we were going to do. And I think the next day the kids, went to school, and when they came home, they had some, not so great news to share with us.
Yeah, we had, thinking we wanted to try to keep everything like as normal as possible and send them, and we thought like it would give us time to like talk and figure our stuff out. And when Em came home, she was real upset because the kids at her school were asking her, why is your parents in prison? Because a newspaper article had come out and talked about, the couple, Waterloo couple who exploiting senior citizen. So it was, quite embarrassing for her. And, we knew right away, like we decided we're not going to put the kids through that because that's not something they should have to listen to on a daily basis.
So on the financial side of things, we knew we had to make some major changes.
And I want to say too, like the kids at the school in 5th grade, at that time, 5th graders don't read the newspaper. So it's the parents that were telling their kids, which I think is sad and unfortunate, because if you're a parent and you know something, about somebody's parent, you really should keep it to yourself to not let little kids get affected by it.
Yeah, we were treated differently. Even our next door neighbor, that basically the back of our house was to the back of theirs, and our daughter played with their daughter and back and forth between the houses. And we used to wave, when we'd pull out and, come back home. And, after that article, we would wave, and, they basically would just look at us, turn around, and just completely act like we didn't exist. And I think you had even an experience, right away in the local store.
So I went to Walmart, and, our town we lived in was really small. So everybody, I guess, that you knew, you'd see in the store. And Emily had a best friend that she had kind of grown up with since kindergarten. And we had actually babysitted like after school care for her kids, this lady, and for free. I didn't make money off of her. And we gave her a Christmas tree, a couch. I mean, we were really nice to these people. And when she seen us after this article was in the paper, she literally yelled across the store at Walmart about us being crooks. And I was like, okay, that's a shame, because obviously Em lost her friend because of us, and I felt bad, but, it's not like I could go up and talk to her, and I wasn't even going to try, because what's the point when somebody reads something and they already have an instant opinion or judgment about you?
So you definitely are innocent until proven guilty, for sure.
You're not. Is that what you said?
I'm sorry. So you're definitely guilty until proven innocent,
Right.
For sure.
Right.
So at the time, we knew that we had to completely change life as we knew it. We had been living in a ranch-style home, just built 3 years prior, and it's probably about 2,700 square feet on the first floor, full basement. A lot of it was finished. We probably had a total of 5 bathrooms. It was way bigger than what we needed. 2 large SUV vehicles, credit card, mortgage payment and stuff like that. So we knew we had to figure something different out. Also, our attorneys advised us that, it would be best, to prove to the courts that, we are, number one, we're not bad people, have to be a threat to anybody, and that we would give up my insurance license and my securities license, and basically I had to quit my job and find something new a new way to make money. So what we did is, we immediately turned in one of our vehicles. We just brought it to the dealership and said, hey, we are going through something. We can't afford this. There was no need to, skip payments and make them, have to come repossess it or anything like that. To settle the financial stuff as far as, what Stephanie's mom and dad were owed back for posting the bond, they were getting ready to move into a home. And a lot of the things that they needed, furniture-wise and things like that, we already had and we weren't going to need. And so we were able to basically, satisfy some of the money that we had owed them as a repayment. And they basically went through our whole house and through our personal belongings and things like that, and basically said, I'll pay you this much for this much for this, and this much for this, and until it got up to a certain amount. And then we also were able to give them some cash, that we still had, to make sure that they were reimbursed or paid back in full for what they had paid out.
I think the only thing that they didn't take was a picture that had meaning for you.
Yeah, we had a painting of Thomas Kincaid, and it had some meaning because, it was of San Francisco. I'd won a trip through one of my insurance companies and was not able to go on the trip, and it was right around the time that my brother had his heart transplant. So, that was sentimental to me, and it was of Lombard Street, so that's the only thing that we had kept at the time. Plus, it was very large, so I don't think they really even had a place for it at the time. But anyway, that's about all we kept, that was of value. So we took our one vehicle and we went to a new town that was, bigger in size, had more people, away from the town we were in, somewhere that we could just kind of just fit in or blend in, and that our kids wouldn't get picked on and we wouldn't be harassed or anything like that. And so we moved to this house that we're going to put up here.
What we called the yellow house, but now it's gray. When we moved in, it was quite crowded because it was about 1,000 square feet, and we had 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, and we had a large golden retriever at the time. She was probably 90 pounds. And then Jay and Joey shared a room, and Em had her own room, and then we had a room. But right away after we moved in, we had like a bad storm, a tree fell on the house, and then our sewer backed up and flooded out of the bathroom onto like the whole main area. And we found out we had like mice in the attic, and then the neighbor had come over and introduced themselves and say hi, and told us that the lady that lived there had passed away in the house. And I was like, great. So
we also had a scare, I think, with gas. We had the fire department out in the middle of one night because we
didn't know if the kids were like, getting like carbon monoxide. I mean, it was just like one thing after the next at that house, and we were kind of creeped out.
But at the time, that house was located on the same street, just 2 blocks down from the house that my brother's wife and, his daughter and her other 2 kids, his 2 stepkids. So we wanted to be kind of close, for my brother's daughter to be around. I also was trying to figure things out and find a job, and the only thing that I could find at the time, right away, was to drive a meat truck. And I would at night plug it into a lamp post that was in the driveway of this house and keep the food refrigerated. And then during the day I would go to higher end neighborhoods and go to door to door and try to sell them, fillets and lobster tail and sea bass and all of these, fancy items. But at the end of the day, we weren't really making much money doing that. And so fortunately, I was able to find a job not too far from that house at American TV and Furniture, which is a humongous, or at the time was a humongous store that offered furniture and TVs and, computers and things like that. And I had sold furniture in the past, so I figured why not? It was commission sales, and I was able to make a good living, So with all the problems with the house and with me finally landing a secure job.
Also, the job that he got before he got hired, he had told them like what was going on, that he was going to have court dates and stuff, and they were willing to work with him, so they knew everything up front as well.
Yeah. So with what we felt like stability and the fact that our attorney was still telling us, hey, you guys have reestablished yourself, you've never been in trouble before, and things like that, that you're gonna be fine. And so it was in that time that we decided to look for another house that, we could afford, but was just a little bit, bigger and not having some of the issues that the other house had. And so with my mom's help, because at that time, we had our previous house foreclosed on, and we had obviously turned that car back in. And so with her help, she got a loan at this other house that we're gonna put up. And the arrangement was basically we would make the house payments and all of the bills, but the loan was in her name. And so she was able to help us to get into that house.
And that's when we filed bankruptcy.
Right. Basically, the time from when I got arrested, or we both got arrested, to the time that all of this was, happening, several months had passed. Probably about 8 months or so had passed. We were just kind of dealing with constant court dates and, attorneys filing motions and discovery and all that mumbo jumbo. And in that time, a couple more things happened. When I was arrested, they basically thought that I was the Bernie Madoff of Southern Illinois. So they went through my entire book of business and contacted all of my previous customers and tried to see if there was any, problems or irregularities. And so what they had come up with is in 2 different counties, they found 2 additional cases that they seemed or thought to be suspicious. And in one case, it was some planning that I did for a gentleman with my mentor that my company assigned to me, and with the estate attorney that he had involved. And we had done some planning. We had the gentleman had done some charitable organization donations, and then a majority of the money had been siphoned back to him. And what alarmed the family or triggered their questioning things is that when he passed away, they went to open his safety deposit box, and there was, more cash than what they expected. And that's because in the planning that we did and things that he did, the transactions, majority of the money that he had transferred to the organization had come back and been returned to him after he accomplished what he was trying to accomplish. So I did keep a portion of the money as part of my fee or planning, and but the total amount of that case was just under $80,000 is what they said was owed. But I didn't have, I didn't keep anywhere near that amount myself. And then the last case was a lady that I had done planning with, again with the mentor that was a certified estate planner, and with his estate attorney. We set up her trust, we did the planning. Her 2 sons knew we were doing the planning. They were both adult children, like in their late 40s, early 50s. And with both of their blessing, she named me as the trustee. And part of my role as a trustee is that upon her passing, I would take care of the affairs and distribute the money to the two boys. And for doing so, I was allowed to, by law, charge a normal customary fee as being the trustee. And that's something that happens at banks, and attorneys offer those type of services. And so that was all okay. When she passed away, she had some water damage that had taken place at her house. I was involved in, getting it, the flooring redone, painting done, getting it listed, liquidating her entire estate. And when I started talking to the boys about what the process was from there as far as making distributions to them over time, the only issue they had was that they wanted their money up front. So what I did is I said, well, I'm willing to give you this in a lump sum, but the fee that I would have been charging over a period of time, I just said, would it be okay if I take this fee up front and then you guys get your money up front? And they both agreed. One son was local and one son was located in Texas, and we had been communicating all of this, by phone, and the brothers were talking between themselves. And so I got the trust, got some cashier's checks made, and I actually typed up a form for each of the brothers to sign stating, hey, we're going to take a reduced amount of the payout to take as a lump sum, and then you're going to get a fee of this. And each brother signed the form and got a cashier's check, You know, the local one, I took care of his, and then I jumped on a plane, flew to Dallas, Texas, and met him at the airport. And he came, signed the form saying, yes, I'm gonna take a reduced amount, you're gonna get your fee, and, you know, I got back on the plane and flew back to St. Louis. I think those two brothers were basically convinced by a prosecutor or, you know, somebody with the county relating to this other charge to jump on board. That case was just under $50,000 that they were claiming that they were, you know, taken for, which was not the case. However, and we'll talk more about this part of the story down the road, all in all, I was facing 3 cases, major cases, in 3 different counties, and for some reason, you know, they charged Stephanie in the first case being accountable, and nothing was different in the other 2 cases, but she was not charged in the other 2 counties. It was just myself being charged. And so there was not really any consistency there. And the total amount, you know, for all 3 cases was, you know, probably about $330,000 plus dollars. So I was facing some major, you know, legal problems. So now we are up to around April 2007. So it's almost a year coming up from when we were originally arrested. Now I'm facing 3 charges from 3 different counties with a lot of money and some serious charges against me. And Stephanie is being held accountable for the first case that was brought against us. And we're just trying to rebuild our lives, have our kids relocated to a new school. I'm working a new job, and we're just basically showing up to a bunch of court dates and trying to do everything that we're supposed to be doing to show that we're gonna, you know, in good faith, take care of anything that comes our way. As if we don't have enough going on,
I get charged again with disorderly conduct. His brother's former wife had been pretty much kicked out of the house that his mom at the time had owned, and DCFS had been called out to the home to look at the house because there had been we have pictures because your mom had took pictures and given them to us, but there was like cat poop all over the floor, and it was just a big disaster. The house was like trashed, and so his mom wanted them to get out and get their own place, and she wasn't paying any of the bills and she wasn't working. She wanted them to, you know, provide for themselves at some point, and so they were fixing up the house and stuff.
And you said it was my brother's former wife. It was his widow. That's who he was married to when he passed away.
Right.
And then he had, you know,
Yeah.
1 daughter of his own, and then there were 2 stepkids.
Right.
Good.
And so Jay and we were driving in the neighborhood, and you pass by a school that's in that neighborhood that's like on the way from our new house to that house. And Jay had waved out the window to his cousin, and it was his brother's daughter, and he was like excited to see her, and he had waved out the window. Because he had waved out and she made up a story to the police, the mom did, that we were trying to kidnap her daughter, which I think is ridiculous, but it states in these papers that blank and blank, the 2 kids, have both told blank, a DCFS investigator, that they are afraid of me, Justin. Justin's parents are both named here, mainly because they are afraid that they are going to be abducted, which is crazy to me. Why would I want to take on another kid? You know, like, why would I abduct a kid when I've got 3 of my own? And we had cared for these kids while his brother had his heart transplant. I mean, I potty trained and bottle broke this little girl, and we had done nothing but like take care of them and buy them clothes and like love them. So, but I wouldn't abduct them or want to take them from their mom, but it was just nuts.
So to make a long story short, her attorney that was handling the criminal case on the financial stuff she had to pay more money.
Yeah, it was like another like $2,000 to pay him to represent me.
And basically, he represented her, and the whole thing was just made up and garbage,
just
and
dropped.
it was just completely dropped. So it's just,
A joke.
you know, talk about kicking somebody when they're already down. That's what happened.
And honestly, I think the reason why she did it is because she was upset because of what was going on with, you know, the whole situation with your mom getting her out of that house and stuff.
Sure.
But I don't know.
So that was from April, and then probably through June, roughly. And so this is the part of the story that's, you know, everything's coming to a head. And, you know, all of these cases against me, and then Stephanie's got the case. And so what the prosecutor decided to do to give them the best advantage to winning and getting convictions is they decided to not try us together. And so they had us stay separated as, you know, different defendants in different cases. And they let us know that they would be charging Stephanie first and taking her to trial. You know, they didn't offer any kind of plea deals. And in fact, at that time, or by that time, you know, my mom was able to rise up in her company, and she was getting, you know, paid better at that point, and she was getting annual bonuses. And we offered in all of these cases to settle them, to pay full restitution, you know, and in exchange for just giving us, you know, probation and letting us live our life and keep our kids in school and keep our job. And we offered full restitution to these families, and we were told by the prosecutor that they didn't want to make a deal.
Which, you know, like, you know, they could have done what was best for the state, the victims, and our family. Putting him in prison, you know, just cost more money for the state, made our family have to go on welfare, which up until that point, we had never been on food stamps, never collected anything, not WIC, never once in our life.
So with all of that said, they were gonna take her to trial first, and by doing so, her only person that could stand up for her was me. And in order to help clear her name and for her to win at her trial, because she had nothing to do with this, you know, I basically had to waive my Fifth Amendment right so that I could testify on her behalf in her trial, because that's how they, you know, coordinated this whole thing.
Well, and your attorney said, you need to do this because you're not going to get prison and restitution, like, and being a first-time nonviolent offender, you've never been in trouble with the law before, you should get probation. And that wasn't the case, but had it been probably in a larger county, you might have.
So I took a deal on my first two cases because my first two cases were basically progressing quickly. The two brothers that had the mom and I was the trustee, where they really didn't have a case, you know, that wasn't pressing at this point. But I was told by my attorney, hey, this is the deal that they'll give you. They won't offer you probation per se, but you will probably get it. Don't worry about it. You know, sign this piece of paper, and it basically says, you know, that this is a probationable offense, and that by signing this, you agree that the maximum that they can sentence you is, I think, up to 5 years in prison. But it stressed that it was a probationable offense. And he verbally told me, you know, you should definitely get probation. Don't worry about it. And so by taking that deal and waiving my rights, then that meant for her trial that I would be able to testify, to get the story out to the point where, you know, without a shadow of a doubt, that she had nothing to do with this. So we were able to find my actual plea agreement when this was all taking place. And again, you have to keep in mind that we were continuously told verbally by both of our attorneys that, you know, they're not going to send you to prison. Don't worry. You've never been in trouble before. You know, it's not a violent crime, all this stuff. You got a new job, et cetera, et cetera. When they were going to charge and take her thing to trial first, they presented me with this offer. And so I'm just going to read it word for word. Defendant present with counsel blank. Defendant pleads guilty to 06 CF50 count 2 pursuant to some plea negotiations. Cause set for sentencing on August 17th, 2007 at 9 a.m. Count 1 is dismissed per plea. Pre-sentence investigation to be completed by probation officer blank. And then the highlighted portion that we highlighted, it's the last of it says, defendant shall report to probation today. Offense is probationable up to 4 years. So in our minds, you know, I was going to sign this agreement. They were sending me right to the probation officer, and they were going to basically do a full-fledged, you know, background investigation as far as what I've done my whole life, you know, what I'm up to now, where do I work? You know, we have character witnesses. They look through everything. And by signing this, I'm being told that this offense is probationable up to 4 years. So my thought process is, you know, I'm gonna get probation because everybody's telling me, the paper says it, my attorney's telling me this, they're sending me down to see a probation officer, and you know, that's what I think I'm getting into. That's how we're gonna leave things today.
But stay tuned because it gets interesting, because the victim who I was charged in that case testifies at my trial, and also your mentor testifies at my trial as well.
So their star witnesses are the victim and also my mentor that my insurance company partnered me up with, and that we did things as far as planning together. Yeah, that's their star witnesses. If you like what you see, subscribe, thumbs up, and I know there's some of you out there that are gonna keep giving us thumbs down, and you know, you may just be mentioned in the next episode.
When life feels lemons, just call me. Just call me.